Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. I am so happy to be here, so excited after the break. Today, we are talking about, I think, one of the most fascinating topics there are, and I can't wait to share it with you. So with that, I'll share my screen with you, and you will see what one of the most fascinating topics is. It was a pleasure researching for this. It really was. It's always a pleasure. Anything having to do with Israel. And as I usually start the classes, it's so amazing to start your morning talking about Eretz Yisrael. And now that we could visit Eretz Yisrael, I think is even more amazing. We could visit all the places that we're talking about. So let me share the screen with you. Okay. This class is called The Search for the Aron Kodesh. In 1981, one of the greatest films of all times came out. This film grossed over $300 million, was playing in theaters for over a year, and won 5 Academy Awards. And this was Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it was super, 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 super famous. There's just something about the Ark, about the Hashem's Aron, that is very intriguing. Its beauty, its mystery, whatever happened to it, the gold, the holiness of it. And the question remains, whatever happened to the Aron? Where is it? There's all kinds of theories. I'm going to share some of them with you. Did anyone ever try looking for it? Serious effort. So there was a very, very serious effort. Ironically, the same year that the movie came out, 1981, I don't know that it was connected, July 28th, 1981, and we're going to talk about that. A lot of people don't know about it. Now, it being 2022, so it's about 40 years ago, so it was pretty long. But I want to tell you about that. I asked my husband if he knows about it, he didn't, which means not everyone knows. So the goals for today's class, 1, how many, I don't know, were there? 1, right? Or maybe not. 2, did anyone ever try to find it? And 3, where can we get the closest to the Kodesh HaKodashim? So the command to make the Aron will open up in Sefer Shemot. Vasu Aron aseh shitim, you have to make an Aron out of wood. It says the dimensions, he covered it in gold. And when Bezalel made the Aron, he made 3 boxes, a wooden one and gold inside, gold on the outside. And they had poles on the sides to carry it. The badim, the poles, were never removed from the Aron. And in the Aron were placed the luchot. So here is a picture of it. Here's the 3 boxes that we spoke about. And here is the Aron being closed with the keruvim, which are made of 1 piece of gold on top. This is taken from the book Sefer Mishkan Hashem. And the Aron was the holiest vessel of the kelim of the Mishkan. We see here it found its house in the Mishkan. Here's the Aron in the Kodesh HaKodashim. There were 2 parts, the Kodesh and the Kodesh HaKodashim. Here's Mizbach HaZahav, the Menorah, and the Shulchan, and the Parochet Devare. Isn't this a cool picture? So this is where the Aron was, in the Mishkan, in the desert. And here's Bnei Yisrael camping in the desert. And then eventually, when they got to Eretz Yisrael and they had the Beit HaMikdash, the Aron found its more permanent home. And here is a picture of the Kohen Gadol and Yom Kippur, the only time he was allowed to go into Kodesh Kodashim and do the service there. So 1 Aron. But I'm asking how many Aron were there. Now, something that people know less, also I think because the parasha that what I'm about to share is written in is one of the summer parashiyot. People in general know the parashiyot of the summer less than the winter. In Sefer Devarim, Hashem tells Moshe to go up to the mountain, and he tells him, "Ve'asita lecha Aron etz, make for yourself an Aron of wood." And then Moshe, now in Parashat Devarim, he's retelling to Bnei Yisrael the history of what happened, and he says, "Va'as Aron aseh shitim." I made the Aron of the aseh shitim, and I carved the 2 luchot. The second luchot you see in this picture, Moshe is going up to Har Sinai. Where the first ones God carved and wrote, the second ones Moshe carved, but God wrote on them. And then he says here, "Va'asim et haluchot ba'aron asher asiti." I put the luchot in the Aron that I made. Vayusham kashet tzivani Adonai, and they were there just as God commanded, which leads us to think, were there 2 Aron? Because we know Bezalel made the Aron. We just saw in Sefer Shemot, and wood and gold covering it. And here, it seems like Moshe is making a simple wooden Aron to put the luchot in. So the Gemara addresses this and says that, or even you could say based on the pshat, there were 2 Aronot, 1 of gold that Bezalel made, and 1 simply of wood that Moshe made and what was inside of each one. So it says in the Gemara, Talmud Bavli, that, and this is in the, oops, wait, let me go back. Okay, Tosafot, that in one Aron, the wooden one, so whatever happened with the broken luchot? And the Torah doesn't say. Now, one opinion is they kept the broken luchot and they put it in the simple Aron that Moshe made. And it's known that when Bnei Yisrael would go to war, the Aron would go before them. Those are the Pesukim that it says in the Torah. And when the Ashkenazim take out the Sefer Torah, one of the Pesukim that they quote, Vahi ben Sawa Aron, Vayomer Moshe, Kuma Hashem, V'yafutz oivecha, when the Aron would go, and Moshe would say that all the enemies should be scattered. So that's right before they go into war, the Aron is going. So according to Tosafot, we had a wooden Aron with the broken luchot, and this is the Aron that would go out to war. Now, what about the other Aron? Okay, so the so once the Aron that Betzalel made was ready, then the new luchot were in. So we have two Aronot, one with one set, one with another set, and the Aron that Betzalel made, the golden one, wasn't taken out to war. And that's one option, broken and wooden, non-broken in the gold. And then there's another opinion that says that the wooden one was just temporary until the Aron was ready, and then they were both put in there. Okay. So we have in Melachim, it says, En ba'aron rak shnei luchot avanim asher niach sham Moshe. The Aron only has the luchot that Moshe put inside. And the Gemara comments that the broken pieces of luchot are put inside. And now I want to share a beautiful, beautiful saying in Masachet Berachot about the Aron. Now, how do we know that you need to respect a Talmid Chacham that lost his memory, or an old person that, God forbid, has Alzheimer's and doesn't remember anymore? How do we know they still need respect? And the Gemara says, because we still Shevrei Luchot Munachot Ba'aron. Because the old person who forgot what he learned is compared to the broken luchot. We didn't get rid of the broken luchot; we still kept them. So therefore, you still have to keep this person still to respect them. So I think that's a beautiful comparison to the luchot. And another opinion I want to add: there is an opinion that the Aron had kind of a shelf, either on the side or inside, with a Sefer Torah that Moshe wrote also attached. So to open, if we're going to talk about it and ever find the Aron. According to a lot of opinions, there were two Aronot, one of wood that would go to war, and one of gold that had the new luchot in them. And we see throughout the Tanakh, the Aron is not always used properly. Here in Sefer Shemuel, it's being used as a good luck charm. They're fighting against Pelishtim, and Bnei Yisrael are losing. So they said, let's bring the Aron with us. And what the Chachamim say is, here, what they do, they didn't take the wooden Aron, they took the golden Aron that was never before taken to war, and the Pelishtim see it, and the Pelishtim do Avodah Zarah. So they're used to good luck charms and things like that. And they say, oh no, mi atzilenu, who is going to save us? And va'aron Elohim nolkach. And because the Aron's function is not to be good luck, it was taken, eventually it was returned to Am Yisrael, but it was taken in the war. Where is the Aron today? So let's bring ourselves back to Eretz Yisrael. The Kotel HaMa'aravi, which is a wall that surrounded what used to be the Beit HaMikdash. And we see over here the golden dome, known as Kipat HaSela in Hebrew, or Dome of the Rock, or Har HaBayit, the Temple Mount. I prefer calling it the Temple Mount. And we've discussed in previous classes how the terminology is very important when you're referring to this holy place. Why is it called Kipat HaSela? Because there is a Sela, a rock inside. And this is a snapshot of what Har HaBayit looks like if we would cut it inside. You have the rock inside and it's surrounded by pillars. It's not a mosque, it's a shrine. And here's another view of the rock. And here is yet another one. The rock's dimensions, it's 42 by 55 feet, and its height is about the height of a person. So if you're standing next to it, it's pretty high. And now I want to share something that I learned recently about what is inside. Now, having never been inside and never going to go inside in my life, because if the if that is where Kodesh HaKodeshim was, then we are halachically not allowed to go in. The Kohen only went in once on Yom Kippur. So, but there is Google Images. So what else is there? Actually, underneath the rock is this cave. There's 14 steps that go down to the cave. And this circle that you see over here, it's made of marble. Now, if you step on the marble, you'll feel that it's hollow underneath. It's not solid. And underneath is this pit, a cavern, and the Muslims call it Bor Haruchot, the pit of the souls. And they believe that people's souls are over there in that area. Also surrounding this marble are prayer niches from the time of the Muslims period. And what's further under that, we don't know, because there was never really a formal archaeological expedition of this area. The Muslims won't allow it, but we do know that under this is some kind of cave. Keep that in mind. It's going to be significant in a little while as we ask ourselves, where is the Aron? So in Sefer HaMaccabim Bet, it says, Sefer HaMaccabim, it didn't make it into the Tanakh, but we learned the story of Chanukah from that. It says that Yirmiyahu hid the Aron in a cave on Had Nevo. And Had Nevo is the mountain where Moshe saw Eretz Yisrael. Chazon Baruch, which is also a book that didn't make it into the Tanakh, says that it was hidden in the depths of the ground by angels. Another opinion, the Tosefta and the Gemara, say that it was exiled to Bavel. Now, this opinion is, I think, maybe the most popular opinion, and is the one that I'm going to go by for the remainder of this class. It says in the Gemara, Yoshiyahu Genaza, Yoshiyahu Melech, in the time of the first temple, he hid the Aron. And why did he hide the Aron? Because you know what it said in the Torah, that one day God was going to bring Bnei Yisrael to exile, and he didn't want the Aron to go into exile, so he decided, even though the Beit HaMikdash is not destroyed right now, I'm going to put it into, I'm going to hide it. Hey, I don't know what just happened. Okay. You still see the slideshow, right? Okay, if you don't answer, I'm assuming yes. Harambam in Hilchot Bet Bechira, he says something very interesting. Even hayta beKodesh HaKodeshim. There was a stone in Kodesh HaKodeshim where the Aron was placed. So we saw the stone that he was talking about. ובעת שבנה שלמה את הבית, and when Shlomo built the Beit HaMikdash, ידע שסופו לחרב, he knew that it would eventually be destroyed. בנה מקום לגנוז בו הארון למטה. So according to Harambam, Shlomo HaMelech had foresight and knew that the Beit HaMikdash is going to be destroyed. So he himself built a series of secret tunnels underneath the rock. מקום לגנוז בו הארון, a place to hide the Aron. And Yoshiyahu HaMelech tziva ugnazo b'makom shebana Shlomo. Yoshiyahu HaMelech knew about that and hid it in that area. Could it be in this secret Bor Haruchot? Maybe. Could it be underneath it? Maybe. It actually makes a lot of sense based on what Harambam described and based on what the Gemara says. Now I want to share a Mishnah. It says in the Mishnah that there was once a Kohen that saw that, I'll read the English part, who while working in the temple noticed that part of the floor was different than other parts. And he realized that there must be an entrance to a passage. He told another Kohen, and he had barely finished speaking before his soul expired and he died. And it was known that that was the spot where the ark was hidden. So where is the Aron? It's something that's dealt in the Mishnah and the Gemara. So according to Jewish tradition, the Aron was never found and is still hidden in the mountain. And assuming it was hidden, as it says in the Gemara, did anyone ever try looking for it? And now we are in for one of the most thrilling stories I have ever heard. July 28th, 1981. The fire trucks that were on their way to the Western Wall were very surprised when a few minutes after they left, they had gotten a call to go back. They never even stepped foot there, but they knew someone called to go. But now they're being sent back. Why? Because the rabbi that had made the call for the fire trucks to come thought that they were Jewish firemen. And when he realized that they were Arab firemen, he didn't want them to come because he didn't want them to see what was going on. What was going on? There is this rabbi named Rav Meir Yehuda Getz, who was known as Rav HaKotel. He was the rabbi of the Kotel. He made halachic decisions connected to it. He was an extremely philanthropic man. He did tons of chesed. He was involved in Kabbalah. He would have in one hand a Tanakh, and on his hip he'd have a gun. And I actually, there's a book about him I've been reading for a very long time because I start, stop, fascinating. I love learning about special people like this. He was really a special person. And one of his missions in life was to find the Kodesh Kodashim. And he was the rabbi of the Kotel. And the Kotel, we know, is near where the Beit HaMikdash used to stand. So he spent a lot of time there, which is appropriate if he's going to sit and investigate where it is. That's what he wants to do. He wants to find out where's the Kodesh Kodashim. So where is he going to look? This is a picture taken from something known as the Kotel tunnels. This is actually a part of the Kotel. So I just want to show you a picture so you understand exactly what we're talking about. Here is the Kotel. And here, where it says service plaza, is where people pray. Now here's this tunnel that only the men go through. It's kind of like an indoor area. And there's these tours that people go on, and I recommend, especially since I've gone on it maybe 5 times, but every time I go, it's completely different because they're always changing it up. So when you go in the Kotel tunnels, what you're doing is you're walking over here. You're walking along like the bottom half of the Kotel. The Kotel used to be much taller than it is, but it's covered by layers of dirt. And he decided over here, he wants to dig a tunnel and see what he could find. And he started digging, him and a bunch of people. And at first, no one knew. And then he let others in on the secret. He told Chacham Obadiah about it. He told Chief Rabbi Goren. And they discovered this tunnel. And the tunnel is flooded with water. So he decides that he wants to call the fire department to come and pump out the water. He calls the fire department, sees they're Arab, and tells them to go back. Now he's digging along, getting closer and closer and closer. And eventually people start hearing reporters from all over the world. They flock to this area. And when Rav Goren realizes a lot of people are coming, he temporarily boards it up because he doesn't want anyone to just storm the area. But his temporary boarding of it doesn't help. And there's Arabs that come in. And very short time after he opens this tunnel that no one ever walked through and is digging closer and closer to try to find the Aron and the Kodesh HaKodashim, Prime Minister Menachem Begin gives an order, and it says, we need to seal this up. It obviously is going to cause huge fights with the Arabs and worldwide issues, attention. They seal it up with reinforced concrete, and nobody ever, at least to our knowledge, tried again to go and discover the Kodesh Kodashim. You can see this concrete wall if you go on the Kotel Tunnel tour. I'll go back to that in a second. I just want to show you a picture. Here is something, if anyone has ever gone on the tour, people are usually familiar with this area. There's this spot underground that they say is the closest you could get to Kodesh HaKodashim, and there's always women praying there. Actually, if you go to the Kotel and you want to go pray in that spot, so only women are allowed to just go. It's part of the tour, but women can just go and pray there. Men can't. I remember I was on a tour and someone asked why, and they said because women like to pray. So there's always women praying there. If you want to just go for pray, you can. You don't have to be part of the tour. And if you see these women over here to the right, you can't see in the picture, and I haven't been there recently enough to take a picture, and I couldn't find any on Google, but to the right of the women is the concrete wall, and you see it. And this was done in response to this whole endeavor to go and discover where the Kodesh HaKodashim was. Now, I want to share some of Getz's reaction after this was done. So, wait, I want to go back. I'll share this one now. So, when will the Aron be discovered? The Ramban writes that the Aron is going to be discovered during the construction of the temple or in the future before the coming of the Mashiach. And Rav Getz also believed that if you find the Aron, it's going to serve as a catalyst for the coming of the Mashiach. And that's what he wants to happen. And here's his diary entry that he wrote that night, which I want to share. I felt, so there's something called Tikkun Chatzor, where you have these special tefillot you say at midnight. And Rav Getz, he would say these tefillot. And he said, I felt during the Tikkun Chatzor prayers closer to the prayers of my forefathers when they saw the flames arising from the house of our Lord at the time of his destruction of their own eyes. The sound of the blows of the Arabs inside the tunnel, their every shout pierces my wounded heart. With all intensity, the cry left my mouth. Gentiles have entered your sanctuary, defiled your holy temple, but it must, he's quoting from Tehillim, but it must remain strong and must not break down, for I must continue even if I am all alone. So he was heartbroken that finally he's getting so close, finds a secret tunnel to figure out where the Kodesh HaKodashim is, and that's it. He can't continue any further. And he also writes this, I will never tire from the project with a bitter taste in my mouth. I have never felt the humiliation of Judaism that I felt today in our own sovereign country. So we can't believe that this is what's happening. So what a story, right? Across, exactly across from where the concrete, boarded up concrete was entrance to the tunnel, which might lead to the Kodesh HaKodashim, is a shul that's Bet Knesset Al Shem Harav Getz. And here's a picture of what it looks like. In order to pray, you can't just go and pray in the shul. There's very, very strict rules. So actually a short Google search finds you the rules, and I want to show you the rules of it because it's very interesting. So the shul, so I just want to go through some of them because they're interesting to see. The shul is only for tefillot and not for speeches or events. Okay, is the shul for tefillot, makes sense. And who uses the tefillah? So in the Jewish quarter, there's this yeshiva called Yeshivat Mekubalim Bet El, and they're all Kabbalists. They study Kabbalah there. So those people, they go Netzach Hama and they go pray in this shul. So it's theirs. And who else can Tikkun Chatzot? You could pray. We said the midnight prayer if you schedule in advance. A Chatan on the day of his wedding can go and pray there. Tefillat Be'et Sarah in a time of like trouble, but you need to schedule in advance. Tefillot in the days when the main prayer plaza is closed. Tefillot that the Kotel Maravi organizes. Tefillot Bar Mitzvah if there's extreme weather or it's free. There's space. Now, I love number 9. Tefillot Bar Mitzvah, you can't have your Bar Mitzvah and pray in that shul if you donate over $10,000 to the Kotel Fund. And let's see these last few ones. Okay, so we'll stop there. So it's very lucrative Bet Knesset to pray in. Fun fact, my husband has a friend who's always in the Kotel tunnels by the area. He works there. And he said that he was praying in that shul on Yom Kippur. And he goes, and guess who joined us for Tfilat Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur? Bibi. He said, Bibi Netanyahu came. And I'm like, and then of course I'm asking more questions. What was it like to meet him? And this is what he shares. He goes, I want to say that Bibi, he didn't take off his mask once. He was very quiet and respectful during Tefillah. And he said that having met him, Bibi he uses the word Meshader Otzma, that he just projects such a strong energy. So anyway, that's the shul right across, which you see as you go on the Kotel Tunnel tour. And here, Holy of Holies room is exactly what we're talking about. This side is where the concrete wall is, and here is where the women pray. And the shul is over here across. Some places to visit. So I keep talking about the Kotel Tunnel tours. Go on the Kotel Tunnel tours. Even if I'm assuming none of you have been there in the past 2 years because Israel's been closed for 2 years, and they actually have been doing major renovations in this area. So this is a perfect opportunity to go and see. It's also a great story to share with the people that you're with about Rav Getz's attempt to go and find the Kodesh Kodashim. Most people don't know that. And then you could share about the Aron and how many Aronot were there, because a lot of people don't even know that there were 2. So you can go on the tour. Other things you can do, right by the Kotel, they have something called Merkaz Sharsheret Hadorot, which is new also, just open to the public. This is where David's friend worked, where they show you all the generations from Adam, or maybe from Abraham Avinu until today, and you see Jewish history, and how we got to us in the current state of Israel. And another thing you can say, this I love, they have this virtual reality right by the Kotel. It's about 15 minutes, and it's so appropriate because if you're going and praying close to where the Beit HaMikdash once stood, what was the Beit HaMikdash like? What did it look like? So this virtual reality really brings it to life. And because you're so close, it makes it even more meaningful. Even though technically you could do virtual reality anywhere, it's very cool to do it in that room. It's a fun activity to do. Now, something else that's been going on in Israel, there's major construction going on by the plaza of the Kotel. There's this huge, huge building that they have built, and it's going to be offices and a visitor center. So this is the vision, eventually what they want it to look like. So you see here, this double level. This level on top is where people pray today. And they want to make this bottom level where you can see archaeology and also pray there as well. Here is this like huge, huge building that they built. So there's exciting plans. Jerusalem is always renewing itself. So it's very cool to come and see. I want to share something else. one of the questions we asked where is the closest we could get to Kodesh Kodashim? We know we can't go inside, but what's the closest? So we can go in that room in the Kotel tunnels, and that's underground. This over here, the first time I'm not going to say I discovered it. I was with a friend who showed it to me. This is called Shuk Mochre HaKutna, and the gate is known as Shara HaKutna. It's in the Arab section of the old city, which is why I'd say maybe most Jews don't go there or know about it. The market over there, it's Arabs selling goods. And if you go all the way up the steps, what do you get to? So before I show you what you get to, this was built in the 1330s by the Mamluks, who are Muslims, and the Jews nicknamed this area the Chanuyot after the Chanuyot of the Sanhedrin. Now, the Sanhedrin didn't actually sit there archaeologically, but there's a tradition from the Middle Ages that this is where they had some kind of connection there. You can go to this area, but up until the steps. So this is me a few years ago, and I was with a friend, and look at what I'm seeing through this gate. You are seeing Har HaBayit. I have never seen it so close before. I never went up to Har HaBayit, although I do support it, but I've never gone yet. And all of a sudden I'm walking and I'm like, oh my gosh, look, there's Har HaBayit. Now, you see here, like, it's the Arabs just selling his stuff, right? You don't see it in the picture, but to the right of me is a Jewish guard, and he's guarding the area to make sure no Jews go. And they didn't suspect. I wasn't gonna go run in charge. I wasn't allowed to go all the way up the steps, so I took it at the bottom of the steps, the picture, and they won't let people go all the way up because they're afraid they're gonna start a riot, cause a ruckus. My friend that I was with, so he looks like very Jewish, beard, black and white, and he says if he ever comes with groups, they stop him way before the steps because they suspect them of doing something. But I wasn't causing any harm. I just wanted my picture. And it was so floored, so amazed to see this. And my friend, I'll just say his name because I also, if anyone goes up to Har HaBayit, I always recommend this friend to go with. He's unbelievable. He wrote a book on Har HaBayit. He knows everything there is to know. His name is Pinchas, and he told me that a lot of this information I'm sharing with you is from an article he wrote or just from information that he shared. I asked him, I said, how could you is this closer than underground? He said, right now where we're standing, Sha'ar HaKutna, we're exactly above where the women are praying underneath us. So when we ask how's the closest we could get to Kodesh HaKodashim, to where we had the Aron with the Luchot. So one, you can go up to Har HaBayit, and that's a pretty powerful experience. And I had mentioned in previous classes about going up to Har HaBayit. It really depends on what rabbi you ask. There are those rabbis that permit it and those rabbis that don't. I know my husband went when he was younger, and he learned more and decided he doesn't want to go anymore, and I want to go. So he does what he wants. My husband's father won't go, but my husband's mother goes. So there's a lot of opinions. You could go to Sha'ar HaKutna to see a view on top of ground of Har HaBayit. And equally as close, you could go underground to the Kotel tunnels. So it's just powerful to see it so close and to be so close. And another place other than the Kotel tunnels and Sha'ar HaKutna, where I recommend you go, is Machon HaMikdash, one of my favorite places, the Temple Institute. Their goal is when the Beit HaMikdash, when we rebuild the Beit HaMikdash, they want us to be prepared. So they make the kelim. Now, you could see, if you ever go on a tour inside, this is the shulchan. This is after the years and years of study, what they think the shulchan looked like. Here, the menorah is made by the Temple Institute. They remade all of the kelim except one. The one keli that they did not make was the Aron. And they'll explain to you when you go on a tour, they have an Aron, but it's a replica. They say, we never made we can't make the Aron because it is asur, it's forbidden to replicate the Aron. There is only one Aron, and God willing, when the third Beit HaMikdash is rebuilt, we're going to be using that original Aron. And something I like thinking, and I really think that it's right, is think about when you go and you pray by the Kotel. So first of all, the importance is not the Kotel, it's what's behind it. And I say, if really Yoshiyahu hid the Aron underground, I literally could be praying next to the Aron with the Lucha, because it could just be buried all the way underground. So it makes sense. We didn't find it yet. Hopefully we will find it one day. I'd like to summarize what we spoke about. So we opened up talking about Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark and how it was such a popular movie and just the topic. People are so mystified by the Aron, the holy ark, for its beauty and its holiness. Then we discussed the command in Sefer Shemot to make the Aron, and the concept of there being two Aronot, a wooden Aron that Moshe made that had the broken luchot, or just housed the luchot until the new one was made, and the golden Aron that Bezalel made that had the new luchot. We discussed keeping both luchot and how this beautiful halacha about keeping, respecting someone who lost his memory, because we kept the broken luchot, and we need to respect that person as well. We said throughout Tanakh, the Aron was not always used properly. Sometimes it was used as a good luck charm, and when it was misused, it was taken. We saw pictures of the Temple Mount and the cave that is underneath it, and underneath the cave, the hollow area, Bod Haruchat, where the Muslims believe people's neshamot are. Is this referring to where Yoshiyahu hid the Aron? Is there something even below it? According to Harambam, Shlomo built a series of tunnels. So we only discovered a certain amount. We never had an organized archaeological expedition. We discussed the different opinions of where the Aron is. Some opinions say it was taken to Bavel. Some say the angels hid it. Some say it was hidden in a cave on Har Nava. And some say it was hidden underneath Har HaBayit. We discussed the really, really cool search that Avgetz made in 1981 to find the Aron, how he calls fire trucks to come combat the water, and then says, wait, they're Arab, I don't want them to know. And unfortunately, Menachem Begin ordered it to be cemented, double cemented, reinforced, so nobody could go through again. And we said Avgetz was absolutely heartbroken and humiliated that that's what ended up happening. We have a shul right across from the area, and it's very restricted to pray there. Shar HaKutna, where you could get a beautiful view of Har HaBayit and get really close to where the Kodesh HaKodeshim used to be. And other places to visit, the Kotel tunnels, the virtual reality, the Sharsheret HaDorot. And I want to end with a blessing for all of us. And the blessing is, may we always have beauty in our lives and constantly be on a mission to get closer to God. Thank you so much for joining me. Pleasure as always.